Let's begin our news bulletin right here in Pakistan, where Prime Minister Imran Khan has asked world leaders to brainstorm together for ways to provide relief to unemployed laborers worldwide. Speaking at the International Labour Organization's virtual global summit on COVID-19 and the world of work, Khan said the pandemic has jeopardized the survival of the already vulnerable labourers. The Prime Minister said Pakistan understands it cannot lock down the entire economy, as that would starve workers to death, which is why Khan said he came up with the strategy of smart lockdowns, all while keeping the livelihoods of daily wagers and labourers afloat. The Prime Minister praised the ILO for the timely, crucial initiative. Meanwhile, Islamabad has asked New Delhi to cooperate with Pakistan and respect the judicial process in the Indian spy Kulbhushan Yadav's case. At a press conference, DG South Asia and SAARC in the Foreign Office, Zahid Hafiz said India must not politicize Yadav's case and file a review petition before the 19th of July. He said Pakistan has invited India to initiate a review every consideration proceedings. Hafiz said Pakistan implemented the decision of the International Court of Justice by twice granting consular access to Yadav. The additional Attorney General, Ahmed Irfan, said New Delhi requested an Indian lawyer should be allowed to represent Yadav for a review petition. He said only a Pakistani lawyer with a license to appear before courts could represent the naval officer. However, he said a legal team from India can assist the Pakistani lawyer in the case. Pakistan promulgated review and consideration ordinance on May 20th, allowing for the filing of a review petition within 60 days. In 2017, the Indian commander confessed to espionage and acts of plotting and facilitating terrorism after his arrest in Pakistan. A complete shutdown is being observed in occupied Kashmir to mark the 4th martyrdom anniversary of freedom fighter Burhan Wani. In a statement, Hurriyat leaders paid rich tribute to the martyred leader. They say Wani symbolizes unrelenting resistance of the Kashmiri people who are waging a struggle for the right to self-determination. This report has the details.
Indian-occupied Kashmir, one of the most militarized places on earth, has been the scene of the worst violence over the past 73 years. It has seen many who raised voices against India's illegal occupation killed or terrorized at the hands of security forces. And Burhan Muzaffar Wani is at the top of the list. He had become an icon for Kashmiri youth through his social media warfare against occupying forces. Fearing him as a direct threat to India's illegitimate rule over Kashmir, New Delhi imposed a bounty of over $20,000 on his head in August 2015. 4 years ago, Indian forces martyred Wani along with his 2 friends in an operation in the Bamdura village. Large crowds from across occupied Jammu and Kashmir came out to mourn his death. His death led to a wave of protests during which hundreds of people were brutally killed by Indian forces. Over 12,000 Kashmiris were arrested in the next 2 months to snub the protests. Indian atrocities in Kashmir have once again intensified since New Delhi stripped the region of its autonomy in August last year. 192 people have been martyred and another 1,300 wounded during the 11-month-long siege of the valley.
Well, the U.S. has a record 60,209 cases in the past 24 hours of coronavirus, taking the toll to nearly 3 million there, with over 131,000 deaths. In the virus epicenter, Latin America, Brazil has registered over 1,250 deaths overnight, while almost 900 lost their lives to the disease in Mexico just in a day. The deadly virus has so far killed over 543,000 people and has infected 11.7 million globally. This report has more.
Just when the world thought it had seen off the peak of COVID-19, the pandemic has relapsed, forcing countries to roll back their plans to return to normalcy. Outbreak is most aggressive in the Americas, where the US is registering one record spike in cases after another. While Brazil and Mexico continue to be the worst hit nations in Latin America, the virus is now spreading fast in countries like Peru and Argentina.
It's a little more in the suburbs than in the city of Buenos Aires. We thought that this would saturate the system. You have to remember that these are patients in a grave condition. They don't just stay 2 or 3 days in therapy. They're prolonged hospital stays for 2 or 3 weeks.
In the African continent, the situation is getting equally worse, with South Africa reporting over 10,000 cases every day. Nigeria and Ghana, too, are struggling to contain the spread despite restrictive measures. After declaring victory over the virus, health authorities in 7 Arab countries have now confirmed new cases and deaths. Over in Australia, New South Wales has banned citizens from its bordering regions with Victoria State.
Can I say an important reminder for all of us that we have to get past this public health bushfire and get back into a position where we can start to open up again and start to repair the very significant economic damage that has been done. And that won't be a quick process in any part of the country.
In Asia, South Korea's daily new virus cases have bounced back to above 60. Meanwhile, China has reported 7 new cases yet again around Beijing, following a day when no new cases were found.
Well, here in Pakistan, 83 more people have died of COVID-19 overnight, raising the toll to nearly 5,000. The health ministry said nearly 3,000 cases were detected in the last 24 hours, taking the tally to over 237,000. The ministry said nearly 141,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. It said over 2,000 patients remain critical. The southern province of Sindh has been badly hit by the virus with nearly 98,000 infections, while Punjab has reported over 83,000 cases. Meanwhile, China says it is ready to join arms control talks with the U.S. and Russia if Washington agrees to reduce its nuclear arsenal to Beijing's level. China's Foreign Ministry Chief for Arms Control, Fu Kong, said Beijing will join the dialogue, but it knows Washington will not agree to the measure. Speaking to reporters, Fu asserted the U.S. is asking China for participation in the talks because it's an excuse to walk away from the treaty extension. He said the real purpose is to get rid of all restrictions and have a free hand in seeking military superiority over any adversary. The New START is the only arms control treaty between Russia and the U.S., which expires in February. Moscow wants to extend the pact by another 5 years, but Washington has been advocating a trilateral arms control deal with both Moscow and Beijing. In the past, Beijing has refused to discuss the New START, arguing it has only a fraction of nukes wielded by the U.S. and Russia. Meanwhile, Russia and China have vetoed a UN Security Council resolution for extending cross-border humanitarian aid into Syria for a year. Diplomats said the other 13 members of the council voted to approve the draft. The resolution would have allowed aid to continue to pass through 2 points on the Turkish border without interference from Damascus. Diplomats said Syrian allies Russia and China only want to approve 1 Turkish crossing for aid access for 6 months. The Russian envoy to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, said there were flaws in the German and Belgian proposed draft. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has accused the U.S. ambassador to Lebanon, Dorothy Shee, of acting like a military ruler and inciting sectarian strife. In a televised address, Nasrallah said she is inciting Lebanese officials against Hezbollah and is pushing Beirut towards internal strife and civil war. He accused the U.S. embassy of attempting to starve Lebanon, prevent investment in the country, and scare off foreign investments. The Hezbollah leader called on Lebanese to rise up and defend the country against Shee's actions. She was embroiled in a diplomatic spat after a Lebanese judge banned media outlets from interviewing the U.S. ambassador to Beirut. On to Serbia now, where clashes between protesters and police have erupted after thousands of opposition supporters stormed the parliament building in the capital, Belgrade. This report has the details.
The demonstrators were protesting against the lockdown plan for the capital this weekend to halt the coronavirus spread. They attempted to force their way into the building as security forces set up a cordon in front of its entrance. The demonstrators lit flares and threw stones at police officials and chanted for President Aleksandar Vučić to resign. The police used tear gas and mace spray to disperse the demonstrators. This comes after President Vučić said stricter measures, including the lockdown for Belgrade, would be introduced because of surging coronavirus infections. Opponents blamed the outbreak on the government and said people should not pay the price for another lockdown.
I'll be back after this break with plenty more news. Stay tuned for it. Welcome back. China says it will impose visa restrictions on U.S. citizens who have engaged in what it called egregious behavior over Tibet. Speaking to media, Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian said Washington should stop going further down the wrong path to avoid harming China-U.S. relations. Zhao said Beijing will not allow foreign interference in Tibetan affairs. He said China implements some protective measures on visitors due to Tibet's geography and climate. Earlier, the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had said Washington would restrict visas for some Chinese officials as Beijing obstructs Americans' travel to Tibet. In a statement, Pompeo said Washington remains committed to supporting autonomy for Tibetans and their fundamental human rights. China has opened its National Security Office in Hong Kong. The office will oversee the Hong Kong government's enforcement of the new national security legislation that Beijing adopted last week. Under the newly imposed law's mandate, the office will analyze and propose major strategies related to security in the territory. The office will also handle cases on offenses endangering national security based on the intelligence it will collect. At the opening ceremony, the chief of the security office, Zhen Yangxiang, said he will enforce the law without infringing on the legitimate rights of any individual. Hong Kong's chief executive, Carrie Lam, said the law was conducive to the region's stability and for the sustained development of the one country, two systems.
The law clearly stipulates that it aims at preventing, curbing, and punishing 4 types of acts endangering national security, which are clearly defined in the law. It targets only an extremely small number of lawbreakers and protects the legitimate freedom and rights of the vast majority of Hong Kong residents.
The U.S.-based Human Rights Watch has said 180 bodies have been found in mass graves in Burkina Faso's Djibo town. It said the available evidence suggests government forces were involved in mass extrajudicial executions. The watchdog said the majority of victims were ethnic Fulani or Pul men. The Burkina Faso government has told HRW it will investigate those claims. Burkina Faso has been battling armed groups with links to Al-Qaeda and ISIS since 2017. Hundreds of civilians have been killed and almost 1 million have been displaced by that conflict. The death toll from the fuel truck explosion in northern Colombia has risen to 11. 52 others were injured in the incident. Officials said a crowd gathered around the overturned tanker to fill up fuel when the vehicle burst into flames. The tanker, carrying 5,000 gallons of oil, lost control on a road east of Barranquilla near the town of Pueblo Viejo. Police said residents carrying plastic containers from the nearby town had gathered to extract oil from the tank warnings. Barranquilla's Secretary of Health Rescue, Humberto Mendoza, said some of the victims have severe burns and the death toll may rise further.
The injuries are burns of more than 30% of the body surface, exactly between 40 and 99% of the body surface. This generates a reserved prognosis. The injuries are very serious and generate a risk of acute kidney.
The White House has officially moved to withdraw the United States from the World Health Organization. A State Department official has confirmed Washington submitted the withdrawal notice to the United Nations Secretary General. It will not go into effect until July 2021 because the withdrawal requires a year's notice, which raises the possibility of a reversal. President Donald Trump has repeatedly criticized the organization, accusing it of bias towards China and its slow response to COVID-19 in Wuhan. The U.S. contributes $400 to $500 million annually to the UN body. Public health experts have warned a suspension of funds will severely damage the organization. A federal U.S. court has denied a request to reconsider a lower court's order to shut and drain a key link of the Dakota Access oil pipeline. The court rejected the emergency plea by pipeline owner consortium Dakota Access LLC, controlled by Energy Transfer. Native American tribes and environmental groups say the emergency plea was designed to rush legal process and deny opponents adequate time to respond. Earlier on Monday, the Columbia District Court ordered the stop of preparations and to empty the pipeline, pending an environmental review that could take a year. The court said a segment of the pipeline beneath Lake Wahe lacked an adequate environmental impact statement. The court said the U.S. Army Engineers Corps violated laws by allowing the pipeline beneath the lake, which is a source of drinking water for natives. Hollywood star Johnny Depp has accused his ex-wife Amber Heard of lying about allegations of physical assault. Depp says she had actually assaulted him physically. Depp's lawyer told London High Court that Heard's claims are false and it was she that was violent to him. Heard's lawyers say she was assaulted on 14 different occasions. Depp is also suing the British tabloid newspaper The Sun over an article written in 2018 calling him a wife-beater. The case is set to last for 3 weeks, where Depp's former partners Vanessa Paradis and Winona Ryder are to testify via video link. The U.S. electric car maker Tesla had its best month for South Korea in June, selling 2,827 vehicles. Another 4,000 to 5,000 South Korean customers have the Model 3 on order. Why are Koreans obsessing over this car? More on that now in this report.
Tesla Incorporated is having a moment in South Korea, particularly among the tech-savvy professionals who have relatively been unscathed by the pandemic. Kang Sung-mo says he bought a Tesla Model 3 in December, ditching the Hyundai crossover he bought only last summer. Sung-mo says he is not interested in cars, but definitely enjoys the comforts of this new innovative model.
After I press this lever twice, the car will move itself even if I don't put my hands on the steering wheel or foot on the pedals. I can get easily tired when I drive in the countryside for shooting or to Swan, where my parents live, and get stuck in traffic. But the self-driving feature reduces fatigue.
The automaker has additionally benefited from free advertising from a popular Korean actor, Yoo Ah-in. Known for his sense of style, Yoo drove his Tesla Model X SUV to go grocery shopping on a reality show aired last month. This had led to a spike in orders for the vehicle. Another Tesla owner, Kim, says the benefits and emotional appeal of the technologically advanced brand are worth it.
Tesla car owners say the usual petrol engine car is Galaxy and Tesla is an iPhone. Many people use iPhones for emotional reasons. As I've been driving Tesla myself, I can say there are a lot of emotional aspects with Tesla.
Ahead of the BMW 5 Series and the Audi A6, the Model 3 is now the country's #2 imported vehicle, just behind Mercedes E-Class.
European markets are trading slightly lower as surging coronavirus cases in parts of the world continue to cast doubt over the prospects of a global economic recovery. The pan-European stock 600 fell fractionally, with banks shredding over 1% lead losses. London's FTSE and Germany's DAX slipped marginally. France's CAC 40 lost over 0.5%. Earlier Asian markets traded mixed, with Chinese stocks and Hong Kong's Hang Seng gaining, while all others were in negative territory. Time now to find out what the weather is like around the world. Well, for the latest updates on these and other stories, you can always follow us on our social media at Indus.news. Thanks for watching.